If Jonathan Majors, quote unquote, survives this, it will say a lot about the industry. The fact that he was even able to come back to said industry says a lot about said industry. Let's talk about it.
Y'all already know what time it is. I got the black V-neck on.
What is going on, you all? Breaking news, an audio of Jonathan Majors having a conversation with his ex has now surfaced. And in this audio, you can hear him say that his ex-girlfriend. And throughout this whole ordeal with Jonathan Majors, you saw the PR machine, you saw fans rally behind him, not even fans of him, but fans of this type of behavior. The same way fans rallied behind Homeboy, who did that to Megan Thee Stallion. We're seeing a lot of this type of behavior when it comes to men who do things like this, and men not even being fans of the art that these folks are doing. If you find a man who is a fan of Tory Lanez right now, you also find that same man being a fan of Jonathan Majors recently. These men are now doing this thing where they're gravitating towards these type of men and their behavior. And it is really making me nervous. These men are getting a boost in fans from said behavior. And I feel like things have always been like this. Like, this is not something new, but I feel like it's getting worse. We're seeing a lot of things that are happening to women that I cannot share on this platform. The rates are going up. DV, I feel like, is going up, and I feel like it's showing up in different forms. Not just men doing these things, but also men being okay with this type of behavior. It doesn't matter how much information comes out about said individuals. Doesn't matter if audios are leaked. Doesn't matter if pictures are leaked. This is why you have so many people push back on the quote unquote perfect victim, because there is no perfect victim. There is no such thing as a perfect victim to fit all of these things, because you're going to find folks who will dispute all of the things, all of the accusations. There might be even fans right now who are saying that this audio is AI. You will probably, I mean, right now you have fans saying, well, he already served his time. Yes, but this man never took accountability publicly about this. He did it in a specific way that did not paint him as a person who will do something like this. His relationship engagement with Megan Good is part of the PR machine. That is why you're seeing 2 years later, Jonathan Majors is on the way back up. I mean, there's even been talks of Marvel working back with him the same way they did with other producers who worked with them, James Gunn, where James Gunn was let go by Disney and then they brought him back. I mean, you're seeing the same thing with Jonathan Majors, where these companies are, hey, let's just put a tone down. They're not shutting them down. They're not completely shutting them down. They are saying, hey, just put a hold on it. We're just going to let the stuff play out, and then we'll see how it goes. I don't think for a second that Disney was going to let him go permanently. I think they were just toning it down for right now. And you're seeing that. Like, you're seeing a resurgence of him working with Zeus. He has another project that was shelved that is being brought back, possibly. And I'm wondering what is going to happen now after this audio. I'm wondering now what is going to happen after this audio is out. Because the same people who believed it from the very beginning have not changed. From the people who already kind of knew that this happened, their opinions have not changed. They've stayed consistent. One of the things, and we have shared this so many times, is that we need to, when it comes to situations like this, specifically DV, believe the victim. Believe the victim first, because the moment we start dismissing is when we're not going to get to the truth. By us dismissing and questioning things, we are making it more difficult for other people to come out and talk about their experience. We are making it difficult for there to be any quote unquote type of justice or the situation being brought to light, because we're already doing the work for the person who's been accused. We're already doing that. We saw that with Chris Brown. I mean, we saw like the pictures and all of the things of Rihanna. We saw that, and people still think that Chris Brown did no wrong. I mean, the fact that he's able to go on tour and do these things when he's been called out for being a colorist, cancel culture does not exist. The way these men respond to quote unquote men being counseled for behavior like this, y'all act just like a specific oppressive group every time they're called out for legitimate critiques on their racism. Seeing the parallels blow me away each and every time. The way defend Donald Trump and his things, the way pundits come out and say, well, that's not what he meant. That's not what he meant. You see the same type of behavior, and only a specific group of people are being harmed, and that is marginalized folks. Yes, this incident involved a white woman. Yes, we can have the conversations about white women and their power when playing said victim. We can definitely talk about that. We can also talk about, and we know that DV exists. We know black women experience it. We know white women experience it. Women experience it in general. It is a real thing. Yes, we can have that conversation and we can talk about how white women can play the victim. We can also understand and acknowledge the DV that is so embedded in our culture, where it is a common thing where you will have folks say wife beater to refer to a tank top. I said that when I was young, didn't understand the context behind it until I was probably like 26, 27. Like, oh my gosh, we've been saying that. This culture has always existed. This stuff has always been there. And people try to make it seem as though these things do not happen, but we're so comfortable with it. You can do these things. You can be found guilty of doing these things, and you can still come back and have a successful career. Because Jonathan Majors didn't go completely broke and poor. He's still making a decent living. He's still able to make money. Fans do not owe him anything. Fans don't have to come back to him and support him in these projects and things. And if we want to be honest, he was already on his way back. He was slowly crawling his way back to the public perception about him being good. He was slowly but surely coming back. We've seen this where men have done stuff like this, i.e. Chris Brown, for example, and then they come back and then they will use this experience to boost their careers even more, to say that I was falsely accused, even though they were found guilty, even though we know and see these things is, oh, y'all have taken me through there. You will see them say, well, I served my time and that was so long ago. They will use these excuses to dismiss the things that they have done. Rihanna forgiving Chris Brown for the things that he did to her doesn't mean that I have to accept it. I don't have to support him no longer after that. I don't have to. And people need to understand that I don't have to be completely loyal to anybody as far as celebrities or artists. If a celebrity does something to this type of scale, fans have every right to say, I'm not supporting this. They have every right to say, hey, I'm not supporting this. The way men will use some of the silliest things to not support an artist or celebrity or not interested in them, accuse them of being a part of the feminine agenda and all these things. And then we will see someone like a Chris Brown or a Jonathan Majors be accused of these things. We see this out in public. We see all the images. We hear the story from said victims and still say, well, you know, it is what it is. It happened so long ago. People will use that as an excuse. Oh, it happened so long ago. It's only a matter before we see that same thing happen with Tory Lanez. When he gets out, his whole thing will be that he did that to Megan Thee Stallion. Even though he considers himself to be wrongly accused, he is still played into I did these things. So on one hand, he said he did it. He laughed about it. And in the other hand, he's saying that he's falsely accused. So what is it? Which one is it? And you will see, I'm telling you right now, when Tory Lanez, whenever he gets out, you're going to see these men still support it. They're not supporting him now because the music he's putting out, they're not really checking for it, but they are okay with the culture. And I think that is a conversation that we need to be having about the culture around this, around DV, and why so many men want to jump in. And not just men, if we're being honest, why so many men and women want to jump to defend it. I don't blame women as much because patriarchy exists. And whether these women want to recognize it or not, they are a victim of being supportive of these things. So I understand that. Like, I understand it. But for the most part, that things exist because of patriarchy, which men benefit from. So yes, there are some women who were, especially homegirl, who was saying all these nasty things about Megan Thee Stallion, who is now being sued, who now has to pony up some money for a lawyer that she cannot afford because of being foolish, being a victim, a fool. You're running to be a victim of patriarchy. You're supporting this man, even though he did these things. You see how that's not making sense? And now you have to pay for it because his team is not out here paying for the stuff. These men are not jumping out giving you money to support you because at the end of the day, you're a woman. They're not jumping to support you. And not only are you a woman, you're a black woman that they don't find attractive, because I guarantee you, if you look like somebody else, if you look like maybe an Amber Rose or somebody, they will see you as a victim. And that says something. So when it comes to Jonathan Majors, I'm not surprised that this audio has came out. I am not shocked at all because I believed it. Once the story came out and we saw all of these things and you saw people in his past life say, hey, yeah, he has a temper and he has these things, I did take into account. This is a dark-skinned black man. He is muscular. I understand how easy it is to paint him, but I'm still willing to listen. Marginalized people can just as much be harmful. Marginalized folks can also participate in structures that harm other folks. And we need to understand that, because being black or being these identities do not mean that you are a good person. You being queer doesn't mean you're a good person. You being just black does not mean you're a good person. You being a Democrat doesn't mean that you are a good person. We need to move away from thinking and this belief that an identity alone makes a person a good person. Let me reframe and say that doesn't mean that they have a good politic. Let me remove that and say just because a person shares this identity or has this identity doesn't mean that they have a good politic. Just because a person is a survivor of DV doesn't mean that they have a good politic or a politic in general when it comes to these things. Yes, your experience is definitely your experience, but without the knowledge of these systems and the understanding of how these things occur, you cannot go on to be just a spokesperson without that work. As much as I love and enjoy Kelly Rowland, I was disappointed in her when she was upset at folks booing Chris Brown. Chris Brown did those things, and fans do not owe him anything. And if Chris Brown was very serious about getting the public to like him or enjoy him or moving past that, he would acknowledge the things that he did and continuously do the work of apologizing. People don't understand the apology is just the beginning process. Without the work, it means it's just words. I can say I love you, I can say these things, but until I show you that I mean these things, those are just words. Words have to be followed with actions. And we need to remember that when we're talking about people apologizing or appearing to be apologetic, because that is what Jonathan Majors has done strategically for the last 2 years, to appear apologetic without saying that he did these things, without appearing guilty. That's why PR machines exist. That's why PR firms work. That's what they do to paint an image of a person. I wouldn't be surprised if someone told him to get in a relationship with Megan Good. That was not a him decision, because we know what he's attracted to, and look how that played out. He used a black woman to get this sympathy from a specific audience. And a lot of black women should, and I feel like some of them should be turned off by this. You had all the time in the past to date and be in a romantic relationship with black women, but now when you're on the down, you are interested in being one and engaging with one. And I think that is a lot to be said. But those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments. And until next time, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.